Hello everyone, welcome back to Iceberg Hills Zoo. It's great to be back with a new episode where we will be building a habitat for the beautiful polar bears in Planet Zoo. So if you're ready, we're gonna start this episode. It's great to be back on the channel. This is the current state of Iceberg Hills Zoo. This is the entrance, if you remember from previous episodes, but you will see that a few things have changed. By the end of this episode, we will have this entrance fully complete with this decoration. You will see step by step how I decorate this, and this is the polar bear habitat with a viewing gallery for the guests. So guests will be able to come down here and see the polar bears basically at eye level. So they will also have some seating areas, some donation boxes, which are super important for keeping our zoo sustainable. And I decided to include some plants in there, and you will see some snow effects. This is all part of the immersion that I wanted to have for the guests, and this is like an air view from the outside where you can see the actual bear habitat. I tried to add a lot of water and some like islands in between so they can swim around, and I also added some enrichment items over there in the middle of those islands. So let's begin. Before we started the episode, based on the previous state of the Iceberg Hills Zoo, where we left it on the previous episode, well, the entrance was kind of like bare. It didn't have any like foliage or fences, so that's what I wanted to work on for this episode before we dive into the polar bear habitat. And this is what I came up with. It's a very simple fence. We start with a simple wooden fence with these festive decorations. I really love how in Planet Zoo we have festive decorations. So I wanted to use that. I always think of winter like a holiday season. So I wanted to convey that in the design. Then I also added some grass. Yeah, I know that in the tundra we wouldn't have a lot of grass when it's actually snowing. But, well, some foliage and decoration always looks nice, right? Then I added a dry tree, a dead tree. I do think that was a nice touch for actually representing how cold it is and how harsh the conditions are here in the tundra. So that's why I wanted to add it, but I also added some flowers below it. So we have that contrast that this is an artificial enclosure, but it is kind of keeping that authentic feeling. I also sunk some of those boulders over there because I wanted them to look more natural, and then I decided that I wanted to have the polar bear habitat over here. So I added this elevated path and then the stairs. I am kind of thinking about replacing that really steep descent in the stairs, but well, maybe I'll do that in an upcoming episode. Then I started working on the fence. The fence is custom. I made it with a few beams and with the glass pieces, and you will see how I'm selecting different beams. Well, the entire concept for this build was I wanted to have a cozy place where people can look at the polar bears, but also give the polar bears some space and some privacy. So that's why I didn't make it so large so that they could actually see the polar bears in the entire habitat. But I am thinking about adding a tour, maybe a monorail tour, or the benches. I'm thinking about having some sort of tour over there so people can see the habitat without actually intruding into the polar bears' daily life. I don't want them to feel pressured by all of those eyes just looking at them, feel uncomfortable. So that might be coming for an upcoming episode of Iceberg Hills, so stay tuned for the next tour. Here you can see that I've already surrounded the entire area with wood. Yeah, well, I'm working on the corners and the details, and then I added a flat roof. The flat roof then, well, I covered it with some ice rocks, like this, because my initial idea was to create something similar to an igloo. Having the igloo over there would have been nice, a nice touch, so people are surprised that they have to go down, they see this magnificent giant ice sculpture, and then they go down and they sink underground, and yeah, I think that was what I was going for in this build. Then I covered everything with some ice on the roof. So it's like, I was inspired sort of like by the Ice Hotel. Not sure if you know about that, but there is an ice hotel that I once watched a documentary on, that they build it every single year during the winter. And it's fully made of ice, like the walls are made of ice and the floor is made of ice. So that's what I was going for in this build, like a mix of that. And I also wanted to add the polar bears, of course, which are the stars of this show. And well, when people walk into the entrance, they see these 3 little polar bears. We should have some names for them. So if you have any ideas or suggestions for the names, please let me know. And for letting people know that they are going to see the polar bears over there, I added a sign, an educational sign, which is like really nice. I do like this addition. In Planet Zoo, I love the education signs. Those are like one of my favorite items in Planet Zoo. And I always like to educate my guests, because I do think that the purpose of a zoo should be to educate people. Because if you're taking an animal and putting it away from the wild, or like you're not giving it the chance to live in the wild, or because of some unfortunate circumstance it cannot live in the wild, well, at least you should try to educate people about the species and make something good come out of all of this situation, this unfortunate situation. So yeah, I think the role of zoos should be to educate people. I personally love everything related to animals, documentaries, books. I used to read hundreds of animal books when I was little, and I still love reading about them and learning more about the animals. So I think that's the role that a zoo should have in society, educating people and making them learn more about these beautiful animals. Here you can see, well, back to the build. Well, you can see that I am working on the inner part of the viewing gallery. So I was trying to find some plants that looked nice, but I think a tree would be too much on the inside. So yeah, I started working on some gardening. And actually you will see that I'm trying to make a circle here. And then the plants overlap, but they end up looking kind of nice. So I just went with it and I kept them in multiple levels. So that was my idea for the gardening here. And then I like to add an arrow here to let guests know where the actual habitat is located. I did that with the Arctic boxes. You can see that in a previous episode. And I think I'm going to do that again, because I really like people to be 100% sure of where the habitat is located. And here you can see me that I'm starting to work on the actual habitat. I wanted to have like a natural barrier. I usually try to use natural barriers first because they look nicer, because they are more immersive, and then and second because they don't require maintenance or anything. They don't break, so animals don't really escape without you knowing. So that's why I wanted to go with a natural barrier, but it was kind of like challenging here because the terrain was uneven and I had to level it up and down a few times. But I think the result ended up looking nice. And here I started like shaping the water area. I wanted to have these like islands in the middle so they can swim and go to the island. I also added some enrichment items on the islands themselves. And I had to like level up the terrain after this again because some of the areas were like too high or too low, and you could see like the boulders or the rocks floating in the air. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. And as always, which usually happens to me, is that I get inspired with the habitat and I forget that I need a habitat gate. And you will see that after that I kind of like totally forgot to add the gate. And then I ended up incorporating the gate at the end of the habitat. Like you have a separate entrance for the guests and for the staff, which I ended up liking. Like the staff will go into the habitat on the back and the guests will be able to see the polar bears at the front. So yeah, I ended up liking the location. It wasn't like planned, but I ended up liking the final result. Yep, so You can see more gardening. I think that at this point in the series, you know that I love foliage and gardening. I'm still using some beautiful flowers here. This is the fountain on the entrance, because once I had the polar bear habitat sort of ready, I started decorating the entrance a little bit more. This is the path that takes you to the king penguins. And yes, our little babies are still there. We still have Mackenzie, which is already grown up. Mackenzie is one of our king penguins that I think it was the first king penguin that was born on the zoo, and that's the name that she got by default. So I'm very happy to see her growing up, and we have more babies. You will also see that in the upcoming episodes. Really nice. And this time I decided to go like a bit crazy with the foliage, and I added a lot of plants over here in the entrance. I do think that foliage makes everything look better. I love rock work and foliage, but if I have to choose, I usually go with foliage and plants and decorations. And for this, I was inspired by the Viking theme. You know that with the Arctic pack, we got some Viking buildings and Viking pieces. And you have like these roofs that are like a gable roof, but they are curved. So I like that, and I use that as an inspiration for the fountain. And that's basically what we built in this episode. So now we're going to start actually getting our little babies, like the polar bears. Here you can see me searching in the animal trading tab for these polar bears. I ended up getting 2 polar bears, a female and a male, I think. Yeah, this one, and yeah, we have a male and a female. Please don't ask me how to pronounce the name of the female, it's way too long right now. I will try at some point. You may suggest some names for them if you'd like. Leave them in the comments down below if you'd like. And thank you in advance, I appreciate it. And well, here I am sending them to the trading center. I just love the little running animations. That is something that I would love to keep for Planet Zoo 2 if we ever get Planet Zoo 2, which I do think we're going to get as the third CMS, as the third creative management simulation game that they are going to release, Frontier. Please, if you're listening, I love these running animations. For short walks, maybe we will have a trailer or a car for longer paths, but for short paths I really love this animation, how they're bringing our little polar bears into their habitat. And here you will see something quite funny, which was I really laughed when I saw this. The rocks were like too close to the entrance, and you can see that we have like a really agile polar bear climbing onto the rocks. So I had to move them manually. Yes, when I saw that, I immediately had to change that, because otherwise our poor guests would end up being eaten. So I moved all of them, both of them, to an open space, and I changed the location of the boulders, of the rocks here. And yeah, I had to cover this a little bit more, so I raised the barrier and everything was sealed, and yep, you can see me moving them over here. Now, next time we do have a normal polar bear on the ground. And here we have our little babies. You can see that she has like a scratch, I think that's the she has a scratch over there, but I couldn't see her injured in any way. I checked the health stats, so maybe it's just something that she has, like a scar. We'll see in the next episodes. And I just love looking at them swimming. Their animations are beautiful, and the sound. I love how immersive the sound is, like you can actually hear the water moving. Really immersive. This one is kind of like, it has my face on some days when I'm really like tired and I just want to sleep. And here we can see him or her, I'm not sure which one it is, swimming in the water. Really nice. I love watching them swim below water. And this is the episode of Iceberg Hills where we built our habitat for the polar bear. Thank you for watching. In the next episodes we will continue expanding our zoo. I have a lot of plans, but I would like to add some guest facilities like a food court. So I will see you there in the upcoming episodes. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day. Have fun playing Planet Zoo.